You know that end of day feeling when your brain's toast and you still have a mountain of notes to finish? Yeah, not anymore. Athelis AI Scribe is the ultimate clinic weapon. It listens in your real time during patient visits and automatically writes your notes. That means less time at the computer and way more time for your actual life, whether that's seeing more patients, grabbing lunch on time, or just getting home before dark. No typing and no more late night charting. It's a dream. Seriously, this is the scribe you've been waiting for. Go check out a live demo at athelis.com and see how much time you can get back. That's ATHELAS.com.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us to your friends or family? The minute they give you a 9 or 10, you can have it trigger so that way they get the invite to say, hey, leave a review. And you automatically know who's good and who's bad, and you don't have that fear. And I think that's what a lot of PTs fear is, well, if I ask anyone, how do I know if they're going to give me a good review? Yeah. Well, there's tech out there that can help.
Hunter McWhorter, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. Excited to be here.
Did I say the last name right? I've only read it on LinkedIn.
You nailed it. Congrats. First time.
Slightly different spelling, but one of my roommates from college was a McWhorter. I was like, I think it's spelled like that. So Kyle, if you're listening, I'm talking to one of your family members here.
There you go. Shout out Kyle.
What I mentioned a little bit in your intro, but you've taken a circuitous route to where you are, and those are always the more interesting, right? Nothing was linear for you. No. How do you explain if someone were to talk to you at a conference or a dinner party, you know, what you do and then how you got there? How would you explain that?
Yeah. Well, I always wanted to be a physical therapist, and God laughed and said, hey man, you're not going to like physics or chemistry enough. And I said, well, okay, I can still contribute somehow. And that's how I sort of landed at PT Solutions. So got my start there doing their front office operations, and then got the chance to help with some of their patient engagement, patient retention stuff, realizing, hey, no one's really doing this. This seems kind of important for us to keep the lights on. March 2020 hit, and if you don't have DPT after your name, you generally get creative. Yeah. And so they used WebPT. And so I was familiar with them. I said, hey, look, they're hiring. Let's see what we can do here. And that's when I joined them as an SDR, worked as an SDR, account executive, and then a customer success rep. In between, I did some physician liaison work with physical, worked with breakthrough physical therapy marketing as a customer success rep. I had an itch for marketing and said, what better place to learn than from those guys? Yeah. And then finally got a chance to work with rehab CEOs, which I felt like was a cherry on top of sort of my background and how I can help contribute to the industry and help. And now I'm at a company called Arrow Health and super excited to be here.
Man, you've that's a lot of name drop. That company name drop, and you've hit the some of the big ones.
Accidentally, it's just I laugh because I'm mistaken all the time as a PT, and I get job offers and everything. I'm just like, nope, I just can play one on TV really well.
Well, we'll talk about that, in terms of like big pain points, and obviously finding and retaining staff is obviously a pain point. And if you don't think marketing or communicating can help some of your big pain points in this profession, you're missing out. You've said this: referrals are the starting point for patient care. It might not feel like that, but it is. So what are the clinics getting wrong about how they manage and track these things that we call referrals?
Yeah, I think right off the bat, they think that the patient's experience with them starts at the point of eval. They don't think it's how easy is it to get booked? How easy is it to find out anything about me on my website? Do I have Google reviews? Like, what do people say about me? They think that's not their problem. And whatever, there's plenty of referrals out there. So I think that's the first mistake. And then when you aren't thinking through it, you don't invest in a method to make sure when you call somebody and they say, hey, I'm out of town for the next 2 weeks, or I'm a snowbird or whatever, call me in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You just forget because you don't have an easy way to track that.
Right.
And then you wonder why doctors stop sending to you. And then it's just all this trickle down effect. So I definitely think it starts both from a patient experience side, but then just an operation side too. That's the referral is the start of that.
I heard of somebody, I think it was Rory Sutherland, who's like this, is he English or Australian, but he's a marketing dude. Look him up. He's brilliant. And he had a question in front of a live audience. And I love this question. He said, Hilton and Nike are two elite brands. But if I said to you that Hilton was going to create a sneaker and Nike was going to create a hotel, my guess is you could picture what that hotel would look like created by Nike, but not what the Hilton sneaker would look like. And that shows you like what brand depth is. Like if Nike came out with a cologne, we could kind of smell it. Like they might have even done that or something like that. But like it's the difference of like when does this experience start and how is it ingrained? A lot earlier than you think, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you expect when you walk to the front counter to McDonald's versus what happens when you sit down and someone puts a steak knife in front of you at Smith and Walensky's? The experience probably started way before both of those things, and we need to understand that in healthcare. It's simple for me to say that, but it's not easy, is it?
No, it's because you've got to fight the algorithms. You've got to go outside your comfort zone and do what they don't teach you at PT school, which is how do you market? How do you make it so people want to be there? They just teach you, hey, if you have a good product, they will come. And unfortunately, in today's market, it's so competitive and you've got the bigger entities fighting to take over the smaller ones. And so it's a vicious little cycle. And I think the big difference is how well do you stand out and get that authentic brand, like you said, where people are seeking you out and coming to you and doctors hear about you and want to send people to you.
Yeah, it's not just who knows you, it's what do they know about you. Like,
Exactly.
You could go on LinkedIn and act like a raving lunatic and a lot of people will know you, but that's not going to help you. So what do they know about you? Well, let me ask you this question. Should PTs be doing their own marketing? Is there a tipping point when, hey, if you're a solopreneur, yeah, man, it's not in the budget, so you need to be doing something and you should do these couple things. At what point do they start to need to refer out to somebody who maybe is an expert in that?
Yeah, I would say once they put in the work to develop their own brand and their own identity, that's unique to them. And that way they can then communicate it to that outsourced person. So it's not an outsourced person trying to help shape their practice, that they might not be who they are. They might be like, well, the marketer I'm paying X amount of money tells me I need to do this. And then it's just not authentic. And I think it starts with, if you're willing to put in the work and build that foundation, figure out who you want to be and who the community sees you as, then it just makes it easier for the outsourced marketer to come in and help put gasoline on that fire instead of trying to build it.
I'll put you on the spot, but not in a super scary way. If you're talking to a clinician who's saying, well, they're using the word expense when it comes to marketing, good objection work would be to change it from expense to an investment, right? Because if marketing isn't bringing you more than you're spending, it is an expense, right? So how does that conversation typically go where someone finally lands in front of you? They're still on the end of a diving board. They haven't jumped to go jump in the deep end and go all in on marketing. What are some of the things that you use to explain to them of why it is an investment and not an expense?
Yeah, because generally with marketing, you can get that money back in a lot of ways. Like you can tangibly see if you invest this much, this is how the difference is. And then I always love pulling up the Google and just typing physical therapy near me. And if they're not popping up, then no one's finding them. And that's the easiest way to track that investment and see it as, holy moly, this will only help me and not necessarily like an expense of, oh, this money is just going out. But I think the industry has been burned by too many marketers that just show up, put them in a routine and say, oh, this works for a doctor. This works for someone else in the medical field. There's no difference. And then there's a little bit of hurt in the industry, I think, where they can kind of be a little like, this hasn't worked in the past.
Salty. Yeah. If you've been burned, and people talk, right? Especially in this profession is big, but also pretty small. So if you've been burned, people will tell you.
Exactly.
What are some of the things that you'd suggest? I don't want to call it low-hanging fruit, but what are some of the starting points that people can dip their toe before they jump in the deep end with marketing? You mentioned Googling physical therapy near me or physical therapy in your town name and making sure that, number one, that you exist there. Mm-hmm. What are some other things that people would, after they hear you say it, would be like, yeah, of course I should do that, but maybe haven't done yet?
Yeah. It's all going to be in the world of Google. So first thing is make sure Google actually has a picture of your practice. I was helping with PD Solutions. Role was, are our pictures actually our practice? I can't tell you how many times Google found a back alleyway to post next to a dumpster. And so when people Google you, all they see is a back alleyway and a dumpster. And like, that's not legit.
It's not what you want.
Right. And then two, what are your patients posting? You might not have a Google presence. You may have put one up but haven't monitored it, and your patients are posting pictures saying how much they love you. But some of them might not be on brand. I remember we had one guy, he was awesome. He looked awesome. He seemed really nice. The clinic spoke highly of him. However, he was sort of flashing gang signs and had teardrops in his picture saying how awesome the clinic was. And it's like, oh, this is the only picture that people see when they Google you. Are you aware of this? How are you combating this and helping make sure everything's nice and how you want to be represented in the community?
Yeah. Yeah, and some of that might be hard. You can't really control 100% what other people say, but at least being aware of it. I mean,
Right.
My co-host on PT Breakfast Club, Tony Maritato, says to open up a Google Chrome incognito window and Google yourself once a month at minimum and see what comes up. And then ask yourself, is this the best I have to offer? Or am I holding some things back that I haven't put out there? Because people are doing that. That's the first thing we do, right? We go to someone's socials or we Google them and see, what do they stand for? Who are they?
Yep. No, the incognito mode in Google is awesome for doing any sort of research on yourself or on your clinic to see where do you pop up and how does that work. And two, Google reviews. Last time I heard, and the algorithm's always changing, 30 is the magic number.
30
it's not
reviews.
that hard. Yeah, it's not that hard to get 30 reviews for the algorithm to start recognizing you're a legit business and start helping promote you.
Yeah.
It might be higher, might be lower, but I'm pretty sure that's still like, if you can aim for 30, then the algorithm's like, hey, let's help.
All right, real talk for a second. If you're a physical therapist or running a clinic, you already wear like 50 hats a day. Clinician, manager, scheduler, part-time tech support. I see you. But what if you had a sidekick that could help you do all of that? Something smarter. That's where Empower EMR by MW Therapy comes in. It's built just for physical therapists, and it's loaded with smart automations and AI that help you grow your practice without burning out. No more chasing paper trails or fighting outdated systems. This thing handles billing, scheduling, documentation, patient engagement, all in one clean, customizable platform. The best part? It's actually affordable and scales as you grow. Clinics everywhere are loving it. And if you're ready to take the stress off your plate and be the hero of your practice again, check out a free demo at mwtherapy.com. It sounds like a pretty tall order. Let's say you're sitting at 0 or somehow 1 or 2 stumbled in, but if you wanted to put it in perspective, and perspective is powerful. If you asked 2 people a day and 1 person a day actually followed through for a month, you'd get to 30 faster than you'd think.
Exactly. And if you do struggle with that, it's a great time for self-reflection. Why do you not feel comfortable asking your patients to give you a review? Like, is your brand as great as you think it is if you can't quickly think of maybe 1 or 2 patients to say, hey, can you just give me a review real quick?
Yeah. Or make it easy. I've seen people do the real simple thing, which is a QR code at the front desk, right? Almost the passive ask, right?
Yep.
Somehow, or in an email, right? Could you email them and set up an email sequence of a day or a week after a treatment session to kindly ask if you had a great experience? We'd love an honest review. Like, great and honest are 2 good words.
Yeah. And that's what's fun is with technology, everyone's used to that. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us to your friends or family? The minute they give you 9 or 10, you can have it trigger. So that way they get the invite to say, hey, leave a review. And you automatically know who's good and who's bad. And you don't have that fear. And I think that's what a lot of PTs fear is, well, if I ask anyone, how do I know if they're going to give me a good review?
Yeah.
Well, there's tech out there that can help.
So we sort of touched on, like, even asking for a review might feel salesy or pushy or spammy, but if you do it in a spammy way, it will feel spammy. If you do it in a non-spammy way, it's going to feel not spammy. Right. So let's go with patient retention. It's a big hot topic right now. It's going to cost you less in terms of time, effort, and money to retain a patient than it will be to find a new one. So since that's a hot topic right now, what does retention look like after a discharge? Some people might even say you never discharge a patient. You just might stop this plan of care. But what does retention look like after someone is leaving a plan of care? And how can PTs stay connected without being spammy or salesy?
Yeah, I think the world of social media is the first and easiest step. It's creating an Instagram and just posting something quarterly, even like just something to keep you top of mind. I know a lot of people will send out birthday cards
Oh,
That
yeah.
they get it and it just stays top of mind. And then two, just finding ways to stay in touch. Is it hosting workshops where you're staying engaged with people and just finding impactful ways that remind them who you are and create opportunities for them to stay in your ecosphere instead of going to Google or go somewhere else to fix an issue that PT probably can fix without injection surgery, everything else.
Yeah. You did mention the world of Google. When it comes to technology, especially like when we get into the specifics, software, tools, vendors, it can be a little confusing. There's a lot out there. How can PTs separate signal from noise? How can they sift through that? What should we actually expect from technology? What are some things that you suggest people actually embrace? Is there anything that comes to mind?
I think that when it comes to that, it just depends. There's so much out there for people, like you said. I think the first step is look at your EMR company and see what
What
is
they offer?
lives in their ecosphere. Because I think one thing that gets really easy to do is try and piecemeal your own workflows throughout it and be like, okay, well, I'll use this system for marketing. I'll use this for emails. I'll use this for documentation. And sometimes there's ones that your EMR company might say, yeah, we integrate with X, Y, and Z. Like I recently was talking to somebody and I had no idea Prompt apparently integrates with a CRM now. And so it's easy to say you want that. I never would have known that. And I don't imagine anyone else would have had I not asked. And then
Sure.
there you go. So I think there's a lot out there where instead of trying to piecemeal it, see what's in your ecosphere and go from there.
If it's not easy, if simplicity is not one of the first two things being offered, I usually tell people to keep looking because it's 2025. This should not be complicated. There's things called APIs. They should be connecting to each other. And if they're not, you typically can find something else to do the same thing. And your time is your most valuable finite resource.
Yes. And I think too, in that same world, ROI. If it doesn't make sense how they prove this is helping your practice,
Sure.
then it's not worth the risk of saying, let's go for it. Like, let's invest in this, though they can't tell me what an ROI is I can expect or how I can track it for myself. Like they might not say, hey, this CRM can give you a clear ROI. But if you don't know your referral conversion rate, then there's your ROI right there. You're getting data to help inform everything else you're doing. I think that's one of the big things that a lot of people don't think through, or they hear this convoluted thing and they get confused and they just say, oh, okay, you said there's an ROI, instead of actually trying to force them to explain it and see are they full of crap or not.
Yeah. Hunter, you got a great quote, and I love me some quotes. Big quotable. Movie quotes, inspiration quotes, history quotes. I love them. You got a great quote. You're in control of your practice, not your vendors. Help me understand and help us understand that quote, how PTs can take back that power when making business decisions.
Yeah, I think the first thing is asking questions and having that data for yourself of your practice. What are your key metrics that matter to you and feed your family? And once you understand that, then you start going to these vendors and saying, hey, I don't agree with this price increase. I've seen a more unstable system. Downtimes have increased. I'm not able to do all these things and you're increasing my price.
Right.
I know what I'm worth and I don't need to continue this relationship just because I have to for my practice's sake. I need to be willing to take a risk potentially or try something new to improve the life of my practice, of my clinicians, of my patients by leaving this vendor instead of just be stuck in like a better term, like an abusive relationship.
That's a good way to look at it. Asking those questions and constantly doing sort of an audit of what is this if businesses try to sell you on a relationship, like you're not just a client, we're having a partnership, we're a partner, constantly doing that audit and saying, what am I getting out of this? And it doesn't need to necessarily always be financial. It could be we're expanding, we're giving you more without charging you more, or we're charging you more, but we're going to give you 10x that. Let's focus on the value side of the equation, because if you show up with 10x value, people will easily pay 10% more. But you've got to do that value side first. You got to paint that picture so people understand it.
Yep. And if your goal is to scale, can this allow you to even scale, or are they going to be like, hey, if you get beyond 5 clinics, we're going to need something new? If it's a billing system, like start thinking, where's your future state? You want to be a multi-locational clinic? Why not try and find a solution that can handle that instead of settling for something that's like, well, they specialize in me doing the billing for now. I don't know how to do the billing, but here we go.
Yep.
And in a few months' time, I'll be able to get a different one. And then you're just constantly in a state of change.
Yep. Now, Hunter, you've got the energy and the passion who could talk strategy around this all day, but you're also something a little bit different. You're an ordained minister.
Yes. Yeah.
How does that show up in your work at all? How does that, it's got to come into play because it's in you.
Right. If you ever need pet blessings, pet funerals, anything like that, that's really where it shines. It was a fun, boring high school challenge of like, I bet you won't get ordained when you turn 18. Okay, say I won't. And kept it up ever since. I think I'm in like with Bryan Cranston, like all these big celebrities. Also, we all got ordained from the same group. So, it's an elite crew.
That's great. All right, we're going to do speed round. 3 questions, rapid fire. Are you ready, Hunter?
Let's do it.
All right, give me a simple system or habit any practice can put in place tomorrow to better track referrals or reactivations. Is there something simple? Doesn't need to be expensive, but what would you suggest?
A spreadsheet. Track when you get a lead, add it in there, and then see how many leads came in and how many got scheduled.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge just to help with that. And then you also have a list that if they didn't come in for whatever reason, because maybe they're too costly, whatever that might be, you can then pull from that well later on down the line.
If it doesn't get measured, it's not going to get improved. We know that.
Right.
Can you share a case where a PT practice you've worked with made a small change but saw big results in one of their big pain points?
Yeah. Secret calling, having someone call your practice to hear what your people are saying. I was told, I was calling somebody and I said, hey, my grandfather just had hip replacement. Can you treat him? And the answer was no. What, you accept Medicare? There's no reason not to. So just, again, finding these little things that create pain points for you as a practice and for your patients that doesn't take much work to call or have a friend call and go through the process and just see what's it like for them.
Yeah. Where's the leak, man? Plumbers will tell you that is when you're trying to find a leak, you don't turn the water off, you turn the water up and you try to go through that and see where the bleed is. Yeah. What's a book, a movie, or a podcast that you'd recommend for someone? It doesn't have to be physical therapy related, but it's something that inspired or educated you that you've consumed in the last year.
Oh, I would say Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. That is one of my all-time favorite books that I try and read annually. And it just kind of helps reframe whatever I'm trying to do. If it's a new role, a new challenge, or just a refresher on, hey, how can I grow as a person? And I think it's cool because it helps you, no matter where you are in a clinic, understand how you can contribute in that role and help influence up the chain and below the chain. So I think that one would probably be the best.
Yeah. Former Navy SEAL, Jocko, he's famous. If you follow him on social media, he's always taking pictures of his watch because he's always getting up at like 0:30 and saying, listen, if you want to get after it, you got to get out of bed a little earlier every morning. So he gets out of bed at like 4:30 in the morning.
Yes. His good philosophy makes me want to run through a wall all the time.
Yeah. If people wanted to reach out to you and connect with you, what's the best way to do it?
Yep, LinkedIn. That is the easiest. I'm super active on LinkedIn. Hunter McWhorter, pretty easy to find. And yeah, that's DM me, slide in that way. I'm sure my email and everything else is on there. So if that's easier, there you go.
Love it. Hunter, appreciate the time doing a rapid fire episode here with us on PT Pintcast. Thanks for doing what you do for this profession, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.
Let's be real. You didn't become a therapist to be average. You've got something in you that wants more mastery, more impact, more confidence in the clinic. That's exactly what Brooks Institute of Higher Learning delivers. Their residency and fellowship programs aren't just resume builders, they're transformation zones. You get one-on-one mentoring, deep dive classwork, labs, and real-time experience inside one of the most advanced rehab systems in the country. And the best part? You're not grinding this out on the side. You get a full salary and benefits while you train with the best. Whether it's ortho, neuro, peds, geriatrics, women's health, Brooks IHL helps you become the expert you know you're meant to be. Check out brooksihl.org to learn more and take that next step.